of God, that Israel is the vineyard of God. Now, when we talk about the vineyard of God, especially when you look in Isaiah, the prophet, he talks of the vineyard of God. And God says to Israel, says, what more can I do for my vineyard? I planted my vineyard, I've cared for my vineyard, I tended my vineyard. Yet, when I went to my vineyard looking for sweet grapes, all I found were bitter grapes. And Jesus continues this metaphor a little bit in his teaching. He tells the story of a vineyard that was taken care of by some really bad and greedy people, evil servants. And the evil servants, they cared for the vineyard, but when the owner of the vineyard sent messengers to get his portion of the harvest, they refused to give it to him. In fact, they beat up and they punished and they mistreated the messengers who came looking for the owner's portion of the vineyard, his due. Well, so the owner of the vineyard decides, I will send my son. And the owner of the vineyard sent his son to get his due from the vineyard, and then they killed his son. And of course, Jesus is prophesying that he has come to the vineyard of God. He has come to the nation of Israel, and they will mistreat him and will kill him rather than give God his due. But then on Jesus' last night with his disciples, he changes that metaphor from talking about the vineyard of God to the vine of God. Jesus says, I am the vine, and you are the branches. And if you abide in me, you will bear fruit. Here's the shift. Here's the difference. In a vineyard, there are lots of vines. And indeed, the vineyard of God, God cared for and tended the vines. But when Christ becomes the vine, then we are all nourished by God himself. We are branches within his vine, and he nourishes us with his own presence, with his Holy Spirit. Now, how does that work, that we're being nourished by God? You know, we come to Mass and we receive the Holy Eucharist, and we realize that this is the body, blood, soul, and divinity. But, you know, a lot of times we can come to Mass, we can receive Eucharist, we go our way, and we think, well, did anything really happen? Was there something miraculous? Was there something that happened? I don't seem to feel anything different. You know, there are times when God permits us to see in miracles that which he does always in mystery. You see, this Eucharist is a sacrament, and sacrament is just a Latin word that means mystery. God always works in secret. He works in hiding. He works in subtle ways within us. And we always want the big and the spectacular. And so sometimes God lets us have signs, is what Jesus called them in his ministry, signs that would teach us. Now, one of the most recent of these, what we call Eucharistic miracles, just happened in the last century. A woman by the name of Martha Robin, who died in 1980, so this is actually fairly recent. But she felt called to receive only the Holy Eucharist. And so she ate nothing and drank nothing except for the Holy Eucharist for 51 years. Now, that's a pretty miraculous event. But that is not something that is normal. In other words, don't try this at home, all right? God gives us these little miracles so that we can see tangibly that which happens always spiritually within us. That this is true nourishment. Jesus said, my body is real food and my blood is real drink. That we indeed are nourished by the body, blood, soul, and divinity in a real way, if not normally in a tangible way. Yet, if you're looking for practicality in receiving the Eucharist, you only need to look as far as the Mayo Clinic. They just recently produced a study that shows how those who live by spirituality, those who pray, who are in the scriptures, who attend Mass, come to church, they live longer than other people. Did you know that? That this actually is, coming to Mass is actually good for you? People who come to Mass live longer. They have fewer incidences of heart disease, depression, suicide. And when they get sick, they recover faster. Numerous studies have shown that there is a key relationship between spirituality and physical health. And that shouldn't surprise us, because within ourselves, we are, as we all know, spirit, soul, and body. And they're all interconnected. So when our spirits are fed, when our spirits are nourished by the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus, then our souls and our bodies prosper and do well as well. And the converse is true. When we abuse our bodies with addictions and with unhealthy self-care habits, our souls and our spirits are injured as well. We are interconnected. And so we come to receive the body, blood, soul, and divinity to be nourished by the vine. And as we are nourished by the vine, our whole self is blessed and is benefited by that. But it's easy for us to always turn to junk food, isn't it? To go for the Lucky Charms or the Cocoa Puffs or whatever, to go to the junk food. And if you're like me, I like my share of junk food. But you know, junk food won't sustain. Junk food will not nourish. We must be nourished by the true food, by the true drink of Christ's Holy Eucharist. What is spiritual junk food? Well, we sometimes like to satisfy ourselves with things like sports or political causes or entertainment. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things, but they will not nourish. And in fact, they tend to divide us more than bring us together. But when we are all living within the one vine, nourished by the one Christ, then we are always brought together in unity. And his peace, as the spiritual food, makes a change within us as we are transformed into his likeness as we partake of his Holy Eucharist. When we gather together for Eucharist, we are nourished by God with God. He feeds us with himself. We are nourished directly from the vine of God, and we are changed as we receive his body, blood, soul, and divinity. And so when we come to Holy Eucharist, it's always helpful to meditate upon that fact that we are being fed by God and with God. And in that act, when we by faith surrender ourselves to him, receive his true food, and allow his food to nourish us, to fill us, to transform us, then by his grace, we become what we eat. At this time, I want to invite the family here for baptism. Yes, come on up. Parents, godparents. Yes, everybody come on up.